Welcome to the Revenue Builders Podcast with John McMahon and John Kaplan. Today's episode features a segment from our conversation with Bob Kocis. Bob's the author of The President's Club Mindset. In this clip, Bob explains what separates elite salespeople from the rest. And it's not just about skill. It's about the discipline of watching yourself. He breaks down how top performers review their own game film, recognize what's actually happening in the deal, and make small adjustments that lead to big results. If you're a rep trying to sharpen your edge or a leader building a culture of accountability and growth, this is a mindset shift you'll want to hear.
There are tools now that just weren't available back in the day when I was selling. And if I was going to look at game film of how I performed in a sports environment to learn, if you had Gong and all these other tools, these things that we're talking about, we can self-assess. We don't need a lot of people to tell us, like, are we curious? Are we, like, we can self-assess. Are we prepared? Are we calm? Do we understand, differentiation? Do we understand when something changed in the environment of, somebody started looking down and said, they started looking at their phone, they started looking at their computer screen or whatever. We now have technology that can self-assess. It's funny. I talk to a lot of people and they know that people are listening to their calls, but they're not the ones listening to their own calls.
It's very true.
Is
Not
it-
enough people are doing it. I don't understand it. I mean, game film, could you imagine being an NFL team and not watching game film?
Well, how about being on the team and knowing your coach is going to watch it for hours and you're not going to watch it?
Right.
Like
What about
that for me would be insanity to go in to watch my game without having reviewed the film myself and then wait for the coach to tell me what I did right or did wrong. I mean,
Well, what about
elite
your
ones are always doing
You
it.
listen to a lot of transcripts. What about your teammates? You listen to a lot of transcripts, and the rep introduces the people on the phone. They never say another word, says goodbye, and tries to schedule the next meeting. But they don't participate at all throughout the call. They just let the technical people run the call. It's awful.
Yeah.
It happens more. It happens a lot too, John. And it's one of the things where I think that, sales leadership that's listening here, you need to make sure that the reps are taking the active leadership role in the meeting and running the meeting. And obviously the technical team plays an incredibly important job in everything. But yeah, that's something I think is a miss today. I see it more and more.
So what's a common mistake that when you interviewed these people that they admitted that even with their experience, they sometimes still make the same mistake or make a mistake? Were there any common themes there?
Yeah, I think the one, I'm going to go back to what we already talked about a little bit because it was a theme, is that a lot of them did say, hey, the one thing is you can never prepare enough. So like we talked about preparedness. So that one did come out from a theme of, these are things that we could do, we could do better. And then the other one that kind of comes out is they don't force the preparation. They didn't force the preparation as much as they should. So what that means is really just rehearsing with the team ahead of the calls. A lot of times in these larger deals, especially, you're going to have 3, 4, 5 people in a meeting, and just making sure you're prepared correctly and the team really understands going in is critical. So those are a few that came out.
But Johnny, going back to one of your points, the top guys that I've known, or top people that I've known, that were always doing the big deals, that were always over quota, it almost seemed like they were moving, and they were moving at a different pace than the rest of the people. The rest of the group is running more emails, more calls, more demos, more everything. And these other big game hunters, they move at a different pace. Everybody else needed to call on 10 accounts to get one. They needed to call on one account to get one.
And they're self-aware. So for me, I'm piggybacking on what you're saying, Johnny. They're not waiting for people to tell them what their rhythm is because they've established a rhythm, and they're self-aware. Like, I know what my conversion rate is. I know, I know what my competition is doing. I know what a champion is. I know how to get an economic buyer involved. So people are very self-aware. So there's some people, they say the old adage was like unconsciously competent was a very dangerous, and sometimes I would find very talented people, multiple year President's Clubs winners that made horrible sales leaders. They were
Right.
incredible in the field, but yet they were horrible at teaching others. And it was, they weren't self aware. They did not understand what made them successful. That's almost as dangerous as being consciously incompetent.
Yeah.
And it's so I find that like that's one of the big differences between great sellers and great leaders are the ones that flip the switch on that. They're so self aware that they can teach it. Does that make
It,
sense?
yeah, it does, John. McMahon, back to a point you just made, which I think is also incredibly good. When people, if they're having a hit rate where they're going to 10 accounts, they're not getting any of them. But then you got the, like you said, the elite seller could be hitting every one they're getting in the door. A lot of it has, and what we found when we were doing this research was a lot of it has to do with the fact that they deeply understand how they're going to affect the customer, but they're so passionate about it. They just believe it so deeply. They're like, no, you have to spend time with me. You don't
Right.
understand. We're doing this for this company and this company and this company. They so deeply are passionate about it. It's almost like you have to go take the meeting, you
But
know?
it's authentic.
It's so
You
authentic.
can't make it
Yeah.
up. You can't create passion and get people to believe it. It has to be really authentic. They really believe it because they've
They
seen the
believe it.
results.
They've
Well, I
seen the
call that
results. Yeah.
I call that knowing what you do matters. Like you could ask any of those perennial winners if they believe, do you believe what you do matters? And there's not a 23-year President's Club winner that can tell you that because they won't have energy for it. There's a direct
Right.
correlation to what I have energy for to what I believe matters. And there's no way you could do that job for 23 straight years if you didn't believe it mattered. Very few people could do that
Right.
and perform. Nobody could do it for that and not perform.
So, Bob, did you find like we were always talking about, the really good reps know how to find champions, and really bad reps always are talking to coaches and rarely, get great champions. So, did you discover in your conversations, was there a certain tactic or strategy or conversation or things that the great sales reps had to do in order to turn
Yes. Yeah, that
skeptics into
it
champions?
it came out a lot through all the interviews and plus, other folks I talked about the book as well. I think a couple things. One is they really understood how to connect the solution to solving the pain to solving the personal win. So they were able to connect those three very deeply, and they really understood for the person they wanted to create into a champion or build a champion what that personal win was going to be and painted the vision. I talk about this. So many reps today are focused on the close. I'm not suggesting in this call the close is not important. It is. But I always like to tell the reps, focus past the close to the as is scenario of where the customer is going to be successful and get the customer envisioning themselves in that scenario, not closing the deal with you, but envisioning them in success with you. And the close is just a step in the process. Of course, you want to get on your timeline, but it's a step in the process. And the great reps, they were all saying that. They were all like, no, we would explain to them how, you know, somebody would say, oh, this feature's missing, or this is missing, or that is missing. They would dismiss that and be like, no, look, this is what we delivered for this customer. Let's explain how we're going to get you there, right? And yeah, there'll be some blips along the way, but we're going to get you to this scenario, which is going to make you successful and is going to have a great outcome for you. And therefore, that person started becoming their champion because they really believed in it versus just believing on the point of closure, and then you're going to leave them, which a lot of reps do, unfortunately.
Yeah, they've done a great job also in getting those champions, getting them to the as is picture. But then the people that they have closed, that have seen the results, they have done a great job in continuing to build the relationships with those people and use them as really powerful references where those people are passionate also.
Absolutely. It was one of the, still one of the biggest things is creating your own references. When I interview people, I'm always asking, how many references have you created on your own? Like, and can I talk to your customers? Because the best reps, I believe the best ones, they don't need marketing to create references. Not that that's not important. I think there is a place for that, and having those success stories is definitely a place. But I think that the great ones just know how to do it at a different level. And when they create those, it just becomes a snowball effect because people want to do business with them, right?
And what
In the
about
book,
creating value and talking to the CFO, the great reps, because they're doing big deals, are finding their way all the way to the C level in a lot of these accounts. And the deals are so big, you are going to a lot of times need to present the cost justification and have a CFO ready business case prepared. Did you get any findings with
We
how do
didn't
they
talk.
change
We
their
talked a lot about
strategy?
the unique. Yeah, we talked a lot about the unique value prop and the importance of presenting it and making sure it connects correctly. And we talked a little bit about enemies, right? But I think the thing that I would say came out of that the most is people get a little scared to approach somebody they think is an enemy. And I think that's a mistake, right? What I talk about in, I think it's chapter six, is you want to find your enemies in these big complex accounts. And you may not win them. It's okay, but you have to neutralize them. You have to at least get them to even, right?
Yeah.
But if you at least get them neutral, they're not going to fight, and that
Well,
came
you
out
kind
loud
of
and
figure
clear.
out their strategy because if you talk to them enough, you kind of figure out their strategy.
Right.
I used to, when I was selling, I called on General Dynamics, and it took me a really long time to sell this big deal. And there's this, at that time, there was this data services division. So basically, it was the IT division of them. And they basically assigned a guy that was the enemy to find out everywhere I went, every building I went into, every meeting I went into. And every time I came out, he was right there. And then we'd start, laughing in each other's faces and telling jokes and stuff like that. But he knew I was his enemy and he knew, and vice versa. But after you talk to him long enough, you kind of figure out what his strategy is, right? So,
Absolutely.
well, one of the things I see on that subject, I think the immaturity that people, you'll see it for sure in the perennial President's Club winners. But a lot of people think it's the person that is going to be wailing and gnashing of teeth at them, that is going to be like rude to them. It's going to be, and I found some of the most impressive enemies I've ever witnessed in an account are basically, for me, it's the definition of a champion. Power and influence, actively selling on your behalf, and a vested interest in your success. So for me, the definition of an enemy, they are somebody else's champion. And it's not this wailing and gnashing of teeth, but if they have power and influence, they're actively selling on somebody else's behalf, and there's a vested interest for that other organization's success. I just think that's a very mature way. It's the flip side of it. A lot of times people are saying, well, there's no enemy, nobody's giving me a hard time. Or some of the shrewdest enemies are the ones that they're not showing any
Yeah.
cards because it,
They're going
it has
to be
nothing to
nice to
do with
you.
you. It has something to do with the solution for the other individual.
Yeah.
yeah, they can be very, very shrewd and make you believe that they're going to be your champion when at the end of the day, they're stabbing you in the
Yes.
back.
That's not the case. Yeah.
Where it's so bureaucratic, these guys learn to smile in each other's faces. They're basically politicians, and they learn how to smile in each other's faces and stab each other in the back. That's what they basically do for a living. So then here comes some poor little sales rep that thinks they're going to take over whatever that guy's in control of or get recognized for. And they know how to play that game better than that sales rep. And the sales rep falls right in the trap.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think sometimes it's even not as sinister as like somebody being in that mode that's like, I'm going to stab you in the back, whatever. I can think of times when I don't think of myself as somebody's enemy, but I am their enemy because I have power and influence in something. I am actively selling on somebody else's behalf, and I have a vested interest in somebody else's success. It's just like that my mindset is over there. It's not about you. It's
And
about
one
this
other thing, you're
organization.
taking their personal win away from them. If they have control over something or they get recognized for something or approval for something, you're threatening
Yeah.
that recognition, that personal win. You're threatening their win, and they're going to come after you.
I love it. One last thing on this is like Johnny's saying, if you start seeing somebody who's threatened, it means you're doing your job because the enemy is surfacing because your solution, your reputation, your relationships are a threat to that person. So when you don't see any enemy, that's actually a red flag because you're not bothering anybody.
And I think to your guys' earlier point, which I think is critical, go meet with your enemies, go spend time with them, go figure it out. And it's not easy to do, right? It's not easy to do. You have to go figure that piece out. You can't run from it. It's going to come back and bite you. So.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe, rate, and review the show to help us reach more people. This show is brought to you by Force Management, where we help companies improve sales performance, executing the growth strategy at the point of sale. Check out forcemanagement.com for more information.